Oh, hi again. Time for your weekly dose of me. So, this lesson for today is very simple and straightforward. Take care of your assets. As a CEO, your biggest priority is to preserve and increase your production assets. These are the core for feeding your revenue. You also need to ensure their efficiency to the maximum so that they don't turn into a loss making asset or a deteriorating asset that costs you money instead of generating wealth. And guess what? The most valuable asset for you is the one that can rebuild all the others. This asset is you. Yes, you heard this well. It is you. If you have you, you can rebuild everything else. You as an asset is the only asset that can bring a business out of a crisis on its own. But it also can be the most expensive asset to fix or to operate if you don't maintain it. But what does it mean to maintain yourself? A workout? A 5 minutes meditation? Eating well, learning new skills, meaningful conversations, all of these are not luxuries. They're maintenance. And maintenance is good business practice. But as executives, we tend to ignore this completely. We work long hours, we're always working, and we have no time for this. And when we have the time, we think we need to rest. And I'm not debating this, of course, but I'm here to caution you against two traps when it comes to resting. The first trap is the I am resting trap. And in this case, resting in our minds is equivalent to doing nothing. We're brought up to think that the only way to rest is to be idle, doing nothing. And resting becomes the contrast of being productive, which is not true. In my experience, changing your focus from one task to the other is considered resting. Listen to me. If you are doing a job that you are enjoying, then taking yourself off this job into an idle mode will actually create anxiety. But if you teach yourself to shift your focus from one task to another productive task, provided it requires, of course, a different set of skills, this will rejuvenate you and it will avoid anxiety. The problem with anxiety is that it needs to be silenced. We're never comfortable with anxiety, so we go for a dopamine shot. Yes, you got it. This is why we get into brainless scrolling, meaningless TV shows, but this leaves us feeling exhausted and unable to focus back. Give it a try and use resting through focusing on a different task. Any task could be workout, could be a Duolingo lesson, could be a masterclass video, could be reading a couple of pages of a book. You will find yourself way more rejuvenated and ready to do more. So that's trap number one. Let me tell you about the second trap, and I like to call it I don't have time trap. Because guess what? If you don't make time for maintenance, then you will get a very expensive unplanned stop. By the way, this is a famous concept in lean manufacturing. So treat yourself as your most important machine and do the maintenance on time. Now let me tell you a personal experience. My experience in this area started before even going into a CEO role. I remember being young, sitting in front of one of my dear managers with my belly pushing my shirt buttons. I was ashamed to an extent. being awakened at night after long hours of working with a horrible reflux, even being banned from some activities because of my weight. This made me feel exhausted all the time. So I decided to do something about it and started a weight loss journey. It felt really good. And small things started to show up. Decisions making was clearer, stamina to focus on challenging problems became higher. But a few years later, I started my CEO role. And all of this now could be lost. With the excuse of that I don't have time anymore. I had no time to go to the gym, cook for myself. I was only focused on fitting into my new position. However, I had time to scroll through Facebook, watch useless TV shows for a few hours at night with a beer in my hand after a long day at work, and back then I will call it unwinding. Then COVID hits. And despite how horrible COVID was, I was then introduced to the wonderful program of Les Mills On Demand. It solved my time problem. Now I could work out anywhere at any time. I had no excuse whatsoever. And I had to face myself. And facing myself was to admit that I'm lazy and complacent. I need to do my maintenance on time. No jokes about it. I need to be consistent with my maintenance schedule before the machine breaks down. But then in my experience, nothing drives consistency better than drumbeat meetings. Back in 2011, during a political turmoil, these meetings got me to lead a brilliant logistics team to deliver wonders at that time. And just like scheduling those meetings, I started to schedule my workouts, my cooking, my other things. This became my secret to having the time and consistency. I started to schedule my pit stops to change my human oil and replace my human tires. In the morning, while in the toilet, I would be doing an online lesson or reading a few pages of a book that I am interested in, instead of brainless scrolling. At lunchtime, I would add 10 minutes of meditation to my calendar. Easy. At 13:45 exactly, an alarm goes off so that it reminds me to call my wife and check on her day. How is it going? And so on and so on and so on. All of a sudden now, I have time for almost everything. And the myth broke down. We do have the time. But managing the time is much harder than managing finances, especially for executives. And this is the reality of things. In a jungle, survival is for the fittest. And in our jungle, fitness is not just about the body. It's about the mind, it's about the soul. So stay on top of the food chain and welcome to the jungle.